And welcome back to another edition of Woodsy's Club Tour. And funny one today, I've got my head coach, well, former head coach
That's
now
it.
they're retired. Seibs, how are you, mate?
I'm well, Woodsy. Very good to be here, mate.
Oh, mate, I can't thank you enough. You're the first coach we've had on here.
Is that right?
Yeah,
There you go.
first coach, yeah.
Mate, thanks for the
So,
invitation.
very excited times. Mate, so what does a head coach do now that the season's over? Obviously, it's disappointing we didn't get to the grand final, 2 weeks short. What do you get up to now yourself?
Yeah, well, one of the first things we do is, the coaches review the season. We do that sort of week to week in any case, or there's periods during the season where we sort of chunk up the season and have a look at how we went. So it's not one big final review, and so we do that along the way. But essentially we just sort of have a look at the back end of the year. Certainly look at things that we did well and some areas that we need to grow going into next year's pre-season. Players have medicals and they have a performance exit meeting with our head of performance. And then we actually don't, we were just talking off air about, we're not actually doing any player reviews until they come back. Because I think, over the 7, 8, 9 weeks that players get off, the stuff we talk about is probably not relevant. So it is relevant when they come back. So we want to start, the pre-season of 25 with those check-ins. And as I said, give the players something to go after individually and then collectively.
And what about yourself? Do you go, I've been around a fair bit and seen some coaches, they do sort of what would you say, like a fact-finding? They go over, do you go travel and see other sports, other codes?
Yeah, most coaches do some sort of professional development. Woodsy, I'm quite fortunate. I'm on a group with the Australian cricket coach, Andrew McDonald, Craig McRae, who's the head coach at Collingwood. And John Aloisi, who's very famous soccer player now, soccer coach.
World Cup kick, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm on that group and we do PD throughout the season.
So what's PD?
Well, just like what we do is we're in this group and we check in with each other monthly now, and we're on a Zoom meeting. And
oh, nice.
You bring a challenge that's happening at work or with the team or whatever at the moment, or you might bring a little success story, and you get the other guys to give their opinions on certain things. So I do a lot of that. Regardless, but what I like to do now is go and visit a couple of other organisations. So I've got a trip coming out to New Zealand. I'm going to go and spend a bit of time with Crusaders Super Rugby team there. They've obviously had sustained success for a long period. So I want to go there for a few days, and then I'm going to go back over to the States. Paul Devlin, who is one of our consultants, works for Amazon. He's connected me with the Red Bull high performance team over there in LA, and then and we're just sort of putting together the rest of the tour. But good opportunity. So
that what is Red Bull? What does that intake? What other sports? What codes?
Well, they do a lot of the
the crazy stuff.
Yeah, the crazy. Yeah, they do. But they also do some motorsport stuff.
Yep.
So it's just having a look at what they do there at their performance center over in LA. There's one or two little takeaways for us to bring back. To our club, then that's what you're looking for. Same with the visit down to the Crusaders.
Yep. Do you do these by yourself, or do you take anyone at the club with you?
Well, last year I took a few staff members.
Yep.
But it's always good to take someone else with you, because then you can sort of get an idea and make it better. Over a meal while you're away, or having a beer when you're away, or whatever else. So normally try and take someone with me. But most coaches do some professional development. But I'm quite fortunate that. I'm in a group that I've been in for 2 years, and we sort of have those constant sort of catch-ups throughout the season in any case.
And how did you become a coach? How did you start your journey into the coaching world?
Well, it's probably started when I was playing over in England. So
because you were with the Broncos and Canberra Raiders?
Yeah. I was a young bloke at Brisbane Broncos, had 4 or 5 seasons there. From leaving school until I was 22, and then I was down to the Raiders for 2 seasons, and then I went across to the Super League. And I'd done a teaching degree when I was at the Broncos.
Okay.
So when I was a young bloke, rugby league still wasn't full time. It sort of didn't go full time until around about that 1996, 97 era. So I did a teaching degree. I was playing reserve grade there at the Bronx as 21-year-old, and I was a year 6 teacher.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, which is pretty sort of surreal when you think about it. I was
Imagine
only just taking care of
now.
myself.
Wow.
I've got to say. But anyway, long story short, mate, I'd done a teaching degree, and then when I was at London Broncos, they asked myself and Shane Millard, who is a coach, and he's working in recruitment now at the Dragons, but they asked us to sort of help with the academy team.
Yep.
So we did a bit of that. when I was up at Hull KR, I used to do a lot of the schools development for Hull KR, and then I returned home to be a teacher. And when you're at school, you coach the first 13 and all that sort of stuff. And then I became a university lecturer, and so I was coaching some representative junior teams. And then an old coach of mine from the Broncos asked me to go back to the UK with him and help set up a team that was starting over there. So it's sort of just like it was opportunity, Woodsy,
So you didn't really have aspirations to be a head
didn't,
coach?
no. I just I always thought I was going to go back to be a school teacher and then be a PE teacher and you coaching sport at school. And then probably when I had 18 months as a university lecturer, and I was lecturing to other H&PE teachers, primary school teachers, and I was doing some rep footy coaching then, and that probably sort of
was that with schools or was that with
that was with club junior,
Nice.
So that's probably when it sort of started to become a bit of a passion. I thought I'm actually enjoying this, and you see some young guys sort of develop and so on. So I enjoyed that. And then the opportunity to go back over to England was to help set up a club for Super League. And
which club was that?
It was Celtic Crusaders.
Oh, yeah.
They were only in it probably for 5 years. They were
a fair few Aussies in it.
They did, mate, yeah. They're owned by a Welsh guy, business person, and the RFL backed them to get into the Super League. So, I was over there for a few years. Like I said, it was an old coach of mine, John Dixon, his name was, a fantastic coach. I think he might be still involved. He's always been closely connected with Wayne Bennett. He had 10 years with Wayne at Broncos, and then he's doing some junior development stuff for the Dolphins now. And John's in his late 60s now. So he was an excellent mentor, mate, to learn coaching. So it sort of just evolved, mate. Yeah.
And what was it like going from being a player to a coach? Like, is it hard?
Yeah.
That line we always speak about.
It's hard, mate. Because I got to say, there's a few guys that I coached over at Celtic Crusaders that I'd played with.
Oh, so what's that like? Because
that was hard.
Because a lot of people ask me if I want to get into it. I was like, I don't know how I'd go if I had to tell blokes you played with how to,
That was really enjoyable.
Yep.
But it was also hard because being away and there were so many Aussies at the club.
Yep.
We were all family friends off the field, you know what I mean? So we had no other family or other friends. So every social interaction, you're with the players' partners and, wives and kids and all that sort of stuff. And so socialising with them a lot. So, that was a little bit of a different sort of scenario than maybe, you retiring, mate, and then coming back to Manly as a coach next year. Because you've got your own family and friends away from
you're
from
spread
footy,
away,
you know what I mean? But it was a bit all-encompassing over there. So, you were socialising with them all the time. And, so that was a little bit difficult to manage and didn't probably always get it right because, I was learning as a coach.
Yeah.
And knew I wasn't a head coach. I was an assistant. So you're big brother when you're assistant, Woodsy.
You're sort of a shoulder to lean on, aren't you?
That's right.
Yeah.
So you become the dad when you're the head coach, mate. So you got to behave yourself a little bit differently, mate. You know what I mean? So, but that was all really good, learning and interesting sort of opportunities. And, so I sort of just fell, there's an opportunity. I took it and I just sort of fell that way, I suppose.
Would you say, because that was probably your first, head coaching with not head coaching, but assistant with an English side in the English competition. Was a lot different coaching that to when you come back to Australia? The style of play?
Yeah, definitely there's a different style of play over in the Super League. There's less wrestle.
Yep.
But there's probably not as big as 10 metres either. So, and you've played against the English teams or,
the big boys too.
Big boys. So that's, when I played there, I couldn't believe it. I went from Canberra, who was super, super professional. We had guys like Brad Clyde and, those types of players. Laurie, Sticky were playing. Mel was our coach. But over there in the north, the teams are massive, mate. There's Bradford Bulls and Wigan and those guys. Oh, they were massive. They were a lot bigger than the Aussie teams.
Yep.
So that was like being a middle forward. That was a big challenge, and I wasn't that big. So that was a big challenge. Yeah, coaching back over there then, 5, 6, 7 years after that, the game hadn't evolved too much. It was still pretty skinny tan, not much wrestle. Like to sort of move the footy a little bit side to side. So it was actually, it was a different sort of footy, and it's certainly noticeable when coming back to Australia that there was, they had their own distinct style, which is good, and that's, you love that about
It's the best, yeah.
Love
Learn
that about sport.
different areas. And when you did come back to Australia, you didn't go straight to the Storm, did you? Were you in
No.
Mackay?
I was, mate. Yeah, I had 2 years coaching Mackay Cutters.
Was that head coach there?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
So that was your first head
It was.
coaching gig.
Yeah, mate. It was it was a good opportunity. Neil Henry was coaching the Cowboys, and I knew Neil from Canberra Raiders. He was coaching lower grades there, maybe under 19s when I was playing down there, and yeah, I got an opportunity to go to their feeder club. They had 2 at the time, which was Cairns and Mackay, and they put me at Mackay, which was good, and it was good learning. Back up North Queensland, mum and dad and my family from Rockhampton, so it wasn't that far away, so the kids got to see their grandparents and family a bit more. And then I got an opportunity to go to Melbourne, as you said. Yeah, that was sort of through a person who sort of helped me a lot over my career, Paul Bunn. Who,
He's still down there, isn't he?
Recruitment manager at Melbourne. And he taught me at high school and coached me at high school.
It's a small world, isn't it?
It's a small world.
Yeah.
And, as I said, he's given me a lot of – I probably haven't thanked him enough for the opportunities that he sort of created for me, but he sort of talked Frank into meeting me for a coffee up there. I still remember it. The Bulldogs were playing the Storm in Mackay that year. Danny Barber had some sort of game. He was outstanding.
Oh, yeah, wow.
And I remember, we met for brekkie the day of the game, or maybe the day before the game, and sort of, I got a good feel for Frank, and I think, Frank got a good feel for us as far as, going down to Storm and being part of that coaching group. And, I got a great opportunity then, and that's probably when I started to take it real serious. Yeah.
So what role did you have when you went to Melbourne?
Yeah, I was under 20s coach.
Yep.
The Toyota Cup, Holden Cup.
Yep.
Competition that, you would have started through.
Yeah, I started through it, yeah. I got beat by Melbourne in the grand final.
Oh, yeah, with Brad Arthur would have been coaching that.
And Gareth Witter,
Kevin Proctor.
Kevin Proctor,
yeah. No, I actually remember that. I went down there to coach the under-20s, and you were full-time, so the 20s used to train down there morning and evening, and then I'd be with the first grade during the day. So that first year was just like incredible learning. Like,
what was it like to learn under Craig Bellamy?
Well, he was awesome, mate. I ended up having 3 years there under him.
Yep.
1 year with the 20s and then 2 years with the
first
NRL
as well.
team.
Yeah, nice.
And I learned heaps. Frank Panisi was fantastic. A really good mentor. Bellyache was great to work for. And then there was a whole host of players who were just like outstanding footy players, and Billy Slater and Cronk and Cooper Cronk and Cameron Smith and amongst others, like Jesse Bromwich and that. So, mate, it was a great opportunity. Learn a stack, good people there. And so, that was probably when I sort of thought, I really want to do this as a career, I suppose, and it sort of started from there.
Did it surprise you what Craig's like with the players? Because you see, like us as fans, we see what he's like in the box, like just blows up the Lux. But from what you hear from all the reports of the players, they love him.
No, he's excellent, mate. Well, he was excellent as working for him. You wanted to work hard for him, mate. He just, that's why a lot of players I feel like go there and they just want to work hard for the club and the coach and. I loved working for him. You'd want to do, go that extra mile for him. That discretionary effort.
Yeah.
You just wanted to do it for him. And I guess that's what the players feel as well. So no, he was excellent to work for. I learned a heap. Really, simple, hardworking, thorough. And it was excellent. Like it was like doing an apprenticeship, I suppose, mate.
Really, yeah. What was it like with the players too? Because you spoke about it. Was GI there when you went down there? Or
no, GI had already gone. And so when I got down there, I was doing some recruiting for them up in North Queensland. The previous year.
Was that when you were with Mackay still?
Yeah, I just finishing in Mackay.
Yep.
Did a little bit for Paul Bunn up there, and then they brought me down as under-20s coach just as they won that 2012 premiership.
Yep.
And then I had the next 3 years down there after that. And so, like as I said, like dealing with the players was great. That first year I observed a lot. I listened a lot. I wrote a heap of notes. I'd be in every single team meeting, every single positional meeting with the NRL. And so you can't not learn, if that makes sense. You want to learn, you'll learn a lot. And just listening to those leaders talk in the smaller group meetings or
well, that's
the
what I was going to say, because
meetings.
I've been with them blokes, Billy Slater, Cooper Cronk, Cameron Smith in Aussies, and Mal just basically takes a back seat, lets them do what they got to do. Were you a bit in awe and a bit amazed about how much they controlled those meetings?
No, certainly. I was certainly impressed.
Yep.
I was certainly impressed. But I felt like the head coach in Bellyache and the coaching staff, like guys like Adam O'Brien were really good
Adam was
as
there
well.
with you
Yeah,
as well,
Adam was
yeah.
there. Yeah, they were great to work with. And I felt like they gave them that opportunity. You know, like I think the old type of coaching, Woodsy, of that, you know, coach is the dictator.
Yeah.
And the players are the soldiers, and they, you know, there's only. I think you have to have that sort of collaboration with your senior players. I think, you know, if you want to, and that's just my opinion. And Bellamy did that exceptionally well. Like, you know, he got feedback from the senior players. You know, he had a leadership group. You know, we'd go for a coffee with the senior players, get their thoughts on training or upcoming opposition or whatever it was. But I felt like he was really collaborative in how he did things, and I think that probably, you know, I like thinking back about it. It had an influence on how I like to do things as well. And I just thought it was excellent club to work for. Learn a lot, and the players are outstanding.
One thing I'd love to know, what was he like with feedback with the players? Like, you know, sometimes like you could feel there's like players are going for a bit of a rut and some aren't happy, and then say they'd go to him. How would he handle that sort of?
Well, look, Bella was always, you know, really direct with guys. But like, you know, a lot of the stuff that I saw and heard him talk about was the effort parts of the game. Nothing to do with X's and O's, mate. You know, he allowed the assistant coaches. And again, I think that's where certainly, you know, the way that we try and model things at Manly, mate, as you know, like, you know, try and, you know, delegate to the assistant coaches and certainly collaborate with the senior players. And so I felt like I learned a lot from that. And then going into a few different environments, seeing how different potentially environments were, or how you know, there's similarities to some of the real successful coaches like an Eddie Jones. Like you know, I sort of, you know, saw some other examples of that as well.
Well, I think that was what was easy with you. Like when we could have a conversation, we took the ego out of it, and we could actually not have an argument, but we could just say, well, you know, this is probably what we're not doing right, or you know, and that must be what you got from Craig. Because for us as players, it was easy to have a conversation with you. Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. You know, but like, I mean, as I said, I've been really lucky, mate. I've worked with some, you know, really elite coaches and learned a lot from them. And I've been lucky enough to work with some really elite players, mate. You know, and so you always, you know, you learn from players as well as players learn from coaches. You know what I mean? And so being in a few different environments and working with some elite guys, you know, I've been really blessed. I've got to say, you know, that I've learned a lot, and hopefully I've had some sort of impact on some players along the way as well.
Oh, mate, I enjoyed my time, that's for sure. So 3 years at Melbourne, and then people forget that you spent 1 year at Manly, assistant coach. That was was that under Dad or Tubes?
No, it was actually under
Baz. Sorry,
Baz.
Baz.
How was that?
Because I remember a funny story. I was in Origin camp with Jakey, and he told me, man, we've got this new assistant coach, Anthony Seibold, mate. I'll tell you one thing you don't want to do with him. I go, what's that? He goes, just do not give an inside shoulder.
Right.
He goes, mate.
That's probably true, and that's probably the influence of you know, working down under Bellyache. And so I think, like, you know, Baz sort of contacted me and said, look, mate, you know, would you be keen to move to Sydney? And you know, I'd learned a heap down at Melbourne, and I thought, you know, bring the family, you know, on a different adventure. Like, it's something probably I've done a little bit. And so, you know, we liked the Northern Beaches, so the opportunity to move there, you know, was one that I sort of took up, and I had a year there with Baz, and he was still learning, Baz, you know what I mean? I'm sure he
that was his first gig too,
it was,
wasn't it?
and he was still learning, and had a great person in John Cartwright beside him, and then, you know, I sort of came up from Melbourne as well, and I was doing Queensland Origin as well that year as assistant coach. For the Queensland side, the year that I was at Manly, and then and so enjoyed the year. Got a good opportunity to go to South Sydney and learn again, and
that was under Madge too.
Yeah,
wasn't
that was.
Did
mate,
you have any time with Madge in Melbourne?
Well, we played together at Canberra.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we played together.
Wow.
We're the same age, and then
you're the same age as Madge. No way. Gee, someone's had a hard life.
Yeah.
Mate.
But Madge, he was playing for Adelaide Rams my first year at Canberra, and then the Super League essentially shut down, and you know, the ARL and Super League come together as the NRL. So he came back from the Rams, and we played together in 1998. So it was,
so did he ask you to come to South?
Yeah, he did.
Nice.
Yeah, he did. So that was probably around about, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of the way through 2016. I got on really well with Greg Inglis in the Queensland camp, and I think GI might have gone back to Madden and said, "Look, why don't you see if you can get."
So at Manly, did you only sign a 1-year deal there?
No, I actually signed for 2 years there.
Okay,
and I spoke to Trent. I said, "Look, mate, there's a good opportunity for me to go across and work with Madge, and Madge is probably a bit closer to Bellyache. So it's probably."
You sort of knew the style.
And it was certainly nothing against, the staff I was working for. It was a good opportunity, to go across there, and so I went across there. Yeah.
What was it like at South? Because they're such a big club. Like the expectation there as well.
Yeah, well, certainly, my first year there, it was a bumpy old season there. We had a good side. Unfortunately, Greg Inglis got injured round 1 against the Tigers.
Yeah, I played that. Yeah, he did his
ACL. And that really hurt. That's taken the captain out of your team,
one of the best players
in the game. So, look, it was a tricky year that year. That's on the field. We had a lot of injuries, and so it was a tricky one. But I really enjoyed it. Again, different environment. You learn a stack. I was back working with David Ferner, who
Ferner's your champion.
I played with in Canberra.
It's
great
a small
fella,
world, isn't it?
Yeah, so we were side by side in a little office, and
he
was a senior player when I was a young bloke at Canberra. So we used to have to go and get his coffees all the time for him.
Part of respect, isn't it, mate?
Right? Yeah.
That's what happens.
So it was good. It was a good learning curve. I was still doing the Queensland Origin stuff, mate. So you're working with some of the really elite players there. So that was a good couple of years doing Origin, and sort of at the end of that year, it was quite tough because I was close to Madge, and the club decided to make the decision to move Madge on, and the awkwardness or the weirdness was about it. They offered me the job, and that was hard, mate. And
did you ever have any contact with Madge?
Yeah, I did. I run Madge, but I'm sure Richard, I'd tell you this. I called Madge. I said, look, I'd love to do it, but I just want to bring Madge because like I'm working for him here. So that was hard. But to Madge's credit, he said, mate, look, take the opportunity. You deserve an opportunity. And he was good. And then, so I just wanted to make sure I'd spoken to him. So I did that. And then I became sort of a head coach for the first time, which was mixed because.
I was going to say, what was it like the first time?
Well, it was mixed because the first week I was really happy inside, but I was also thinking, well, Madge and Joey and the kids, they've got, the shit news about, not being head coach anymore. And, I'm sort of trying to temper my sort of, stuff by going, look, you know what, I've worked, hard here, and I've worked hard for Madge. They've asked me to take over. So it was really mixed. It was actually a little bit weird sort of at the time, but once I had a bit of a break and came back in, I was ready to go, and we had a really good season.
What was it like when you first take over your first head coaching gig in the NRL?
Well, it was the media conference. There was a lot of media there. It's a lot, mate. As I said, like as assistant coach, you're the big brother, Woodsy, right? And so, and you can walk around this, the streets or the stadium before a game, and no one.
You're the good bloke.
Yeah, no one knows you, or that's it. Assistant coach from whatever club, and but when you take over as a head coach, like there's certainly a lot more spotlight on you, and I sort of felt that day one, there was a big contingent, but I was really confident and comfortable as far as what we could do, and I was really confident in front of the group. To Madge's credit, it was a lot like Bellyache. He like certainly with me, he delegated to me and Fernsey, really well, and so I was really confident in front of the group and with the group and where we could get to, and we did. We improved a lot. I think we might have gone from 12th to 3rd.
Did a great year. Made the prelim.
Yeah, we made the prelim. Yeah. They were too good for us. They beat us 12-4.
Yeah.
So it was a really good year. It was an awesome year. They were good blokes to coach. A lot like the group that we had at Manly. Like good blokes. We're good bunch of blokes all fighting for a common cause, and so it was a really enjoyable year.
I know I've spoken to you about it at training a couple of times. I used to pick your brain. Like obviously you've got your Sam Burgesses, your Greg Inglis, but one bloke you do speak quite highly of is John Sutton.
Yeah.
But what was he like, and why did you speak so highly for the people out there?
Well, I just I couldn't believe the influence that Sutter could have on other players. Like he just was. I thought he was a genuine leader in that group, and
Yep.
he's one of the smartest footy players I've coached. And I got to say,
And you've
I've said this to you
some-
before.
Yeah.
Like, I've found him to be in the top 3 or 4 smartest players I've coached. As far as when I say smart, like footy game sense, like
Yep.
I reckon he helped Cody's game. Well, this is just my thought. Having coached him for 2 years, I thought he helped Cody's game enormously, just around like tempo.
Yep.
Looking up and playing short sides. And Soto was so good in meetings, and he'd spend time with the young blokes.
Yep.
And then he was a knockabout off the field. You know what I mean? Like so
a
everyone
good
loved him
fella.
because he's a
Yeah.
good bloke, right? He just had so much influence in that group, mate. I got to say, like he helped me enormously as a senior player, and everyone probably thinks he's a bra boy and he's a surfer and he doesn't
rat
care about
bag,
his
yeah.
footy, but mate, he cared about his footy.
Yeah.
And mate, he knew his footy. As I said, I'd put him in the top 3 or 4 players for game sense and the understanding of footy, and the influence he had on other players was enormous. So I can understand why he was captain when they won the premiership.
That's a huge rap, especially you've been in the Queensland side,
Yeah.
you've been around. Talk to us, what was Semi B like to coach? Because as a player gone up against him, he was that big alpha. He's sort of similar to Jared Weir-Hargraves. You knew you were in for a game. What was it like training? And
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Just a real powerful sort of presence about him, and when Sam was in your team, like you knew that he was going to go to war for you. And he's a good bloke. Socially, he was a great guy, and he was really good, mate. He was probably. He'd always, what do you want me to push with the forwards? What are you thinking this week? And he'd do that, a lot. And I know when you came to Manly, like how can I help the forwards, or how can I help the young blokes, or whatever. Sam was a lot like that. He'd come to me and go, mate, how can I help? What do you need from me this week? And so he had some similarities to yourself there, mate, when you came. But he was excellent, and he was a real warrior for the club. And I'm really pleased to see him sort of go into his coaching, and he's having success over there with Warrington this year.
He's one of those coaches that players will play for.
Yeah, like he's a man's man. Like says how it is.
Yep.
There's the next evolution for him is like as the distance in age between him and the players.
Yep.
That sort of when that separates. Your style might have to change a little bit, but I'm sure they'll be going to war for him because he's a good man.
Oh, definitely. Great player. And then, as you said, you got beat 12-4 by the Chooks in the prelim. Was that your last game coaching for South?
It was, mate, yeah.
Yeah, so the off-season, was it Wayne Bennett got punted?
No, it was a really, really weird one, mate.
Yeah,
I sort of had
all
some
go down?
crazy
Yeah.
experiences. Look, the
Because
Broncos...
people see from like a lot of media and they think they know what's happened.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what happened was the season finished, and obviously... like we'd seen significant improvement. I think, as I said before, I think we'd gone from maybe 12th to 3rd and losing that prelim. And so, the Broncos reached out to my agent and wanted to meet with, wanted to meet with me. And so, a lot of people sort of said it was going on during the year. I didn't meet them at all until the end of the season. I knew that they must have had interest because there was so much noise around it, but I just didn't want to, I suppose, get distracted. And so I wanted nothing to do with any of it. The season finished, and I met with Carl Morris and Paul White, and and essentially, they wanted me to, one day take over from Wayne.
Yep.
And so, it was a significant offer, significant length of contract, and it was really tough to knock it back, and I did a couple of times.
Yep.
And in the end, I just thought like this is probably a game changer as far as like your financial,
your security,
and being a Queenslander going back home, and so it was expedited because I think in the end, Broncos made a decision with Wayne. Wayne had signed for Souths for the year, for after my contract had finishes with Souths, and so it was expedited because we had both signed to each other's clubs, and they decided to do a deal. And I just got a phone call one day. I was at the movies with the family, and got a phone call from the chairman of the Broncos and the CEO of South saying there's been a deal done and you'll be on a flight tomorrow morning at 6:30 going up to Brizzy.
Wow.
So
And was that at the start of pre-season?
No, we'd been going for about 6 weeks or something like that.
Jesus.
Yeah. So
Because there was a lot of talk about it, wasn't there?
yeah, mate, it was like, honestly, looking back on it, I just look. There's so many things I would like to have done again or done differently, and but ultimately, there was a lot of spotlight on it. There was so much, there was so much, so much press around it, I suppose, and it got messy, mate.
Yep.
And as I said, there's certain things that I do differently, but there's certainly, you live and you learn, and that's sort of essentially what happened, mate.
One thing I'd love to know is how were the players at South to you when you were in that 6-week block before everything happened?
Look, I found them like they were the previous year, and guys like Sammy and Sato and that, because, in my head, I was staying there that season.
Yep.
We were a half a footy away from playing a grand final, and Roosters were the best side that year. They smashed Melbourne in the grand final.
Pumped them.
I felt we were a team that could beat them, and we nearly did. Well, we beat them during the year, but it was 4-4 at half time.
Yeah.
A real dogfight in that final. So we knew we had a good side, so we cracked on with it. Off the field was harder, I've got to say, because I didn't know how to navigate some of the things, with the media and all the attention. That was a bit of a challenge. And so, it was hard to navigate. But the players were great. Like, they worked really hard.
Yep.
As I said, it was almost like, my last session was Friday. I went home that weekend, and then I'm flying up to Brisbane on the Monday.
So did you get to say goodbye to the boys at all?
I didn't, but I rung them all on the Sunday.
Okay.
I made a point.
Was that hard ringing?
That was hard, mate. Yeah,
Hey,
and
geez.
for some guys, as players do, some guys
understand, some
some understand, some don't. Some, oh, mate, good luck. Well, see you around. Some don't care. So it was all, all mixed. But I just thought it was important that I did that because I didn't get a chance to see him in person. And then, moving up to Brisbane, as I said, I moved up there by myself. I was on a flight the next day.
So when did your family come up?
No, not until the following year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was really tricky, mate, to navigate all that. And as I said, there'd be so many things that I'd do differently or I'd like to do again. But if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Exactly,
and I feel like I'm coaching and, somewhere near my best. I feel like off the field, I'm somewhere near my best. And, I really enjoy coaching, really enjoy coaching Manly. So, as I said, things maybe happen for a reason, but there's certain things that I wish, I could have my time again with.
That's all right, mate. It's part of the journey.
Yeah.
You live and you learn. It's hindsight's always an easy thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Monday walking into the Broncos headquarters, how was that?
Yeah.
Because you've been an old boy there. You
Well, I didn't play first grade there, so.
But you were in the system.
Yeah. So I don't think I was considered an old boy, even though I had sort of 4 or 5 years there. And look, again, mate, I had great confidence in what potential I could do there and bring there. And so I sort of walked in. I was nervous because it was during the preseason. I knew how much media there was going to be. Like, there was media following me around.
So I think the media's sort of pretty full on down here. It's even worse up in Brisbane, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
One town team.
Yeah, if someone gets injured at Manly training, mate, no one knows, do they? Unless Cuzzo puts.
Unless it's Turbo.
Well, maybe unless it's Turbo, someone tells someone. But unless Cuzzo puts something on our website, no one knows, right? So
we can just tell him, hey, mate.
Yeah, that's right. At Brisbane, mate, you've got sometimes a couple of hundred fans watching, and without exaggerating, there'd be 20 media people at training. That includes, like the person, with the camera or filming or whatever. So whatever happens at training, if you're playing someone on the left or the right, it gets reported on social media. But there was a stack of media there. But I was confident walking in. I just didn't. Just looking back on it, there's just a bad. It would have been really tough for Wayne Bennett as well, because he had to do the same thing coming the opposite way. It would have been really tough on the clubs. It would have been really tough on the players. And as I said, I wish it didn't happen like it happened. But I walked in there thinking I could help the Broncos, and ultimately it didn't go that great. But we actually had a little bit of success that first year because we gave quite a few guys their debut, and we made the playoffs. And you can see, making playoffs in the NRL is hard.
Oh, it's very hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And so, we did some good things, but then we got pumped in the semi, and then it sort of started to turn.
That was against the Parramatta, wasn't it?
Yeah, mate. We had a poor game.
But you look at the players that you did debut. Did you Carrigan?
Yeah.
Haas?
Bono had played a game already.
Yeah. He played. I played against him, I think.
Yeah. He played.
Did his shoulder.
Yeah. He played a game already. But yeah, guys like Tommy Flegler, Paddy Carrigan, Xavier Coates, Herbie Farnworth.
Jeez, listen to those names now. Look.
Jordan Ricky, Tommy Dearden.
Oh, Tommy Dearden. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Tessie New, Corey Pakes. There was a stack of them. Ethan Bullymore.
Oh, Bull.
Yeah, the
Bull.
That was one of your favourites.
Our man.
So yeah, there was, they were all, mate, they were good kids.
Yep.
And they trained really hard. But ultimately after that first year, I thought the first year was really positive, and then we had a really good preseason, won our first 2 games. So we
was that the COVID year?
It was, and then COVID happened. For whatever reason, we just didn't handle that at all well. I didn't handle it well. I think the whole club didn't handle it that well. And then when we come back, we won 1 from 11 games, and I was getting followed, pretty hard. And I get it too, because there had been so much noise about me going there when things, went poorly in that 2020 year. I mean, as a head coach, man, you got to front up.
I remember there was one time when I seen you show up, mate. It was honestly, I didn't know you at the time, and I felt that bad for you. Was when you got beat by the Tigers at Leichhardt Oval.
Oh, yeah, it was bad, mate.
And I was like, oh, mate, this poor bloke's got to do a press conference now.
No, that was a shocker. Unfortunately, so look, mate, as I said, again, you live, you learn. I was quite fortunate that most of my coaching experiences over, the journey have been, positive ones, whether individually or, in the team environment and in a team context. Just for whatever reason, that 2020 year. And, there's certain things, again, mate, I do a little bit different there or change but it's all learning. And, again, mate, I probably wouldn't have had the experiences I've had with, with Manly or England Rugby and so on if I didn't go through that.
Well, looking back on your time at the Broncos, Seibs, if there's one thing you could change, what would it be that you'd try to fix?
Well, it's not so much about fixing. I think I probably thought we had time, right? Like I signed a 5-year deal with a 6-year option in my favour, right? Wow. So it was a long-term deal. And looking at the roster, every decision we made in that first year was around, look, we're a chance to win the premiership in year 3 or year 4.
Yeah,
and
building towards it.
Yeah, because we had all these elite kids, right? So, imagine if Broncos still had Xavier Coates and Dearden and Adam Today for feeder and, imagine, so we had this crop of kids, but they were all somewhere between 18 and 20.
And they hadn't played first grade or 20 games.
Well, Katoni had played 12 games. I think David had played 8.
Yep.
Payno had played 2.
Yep.
But there was a stack of other kids I named there before who hadn't played. And so I thought I had time. And I thought the first year was a good building year because we started poorly. Yep. We gave all these kids their debuts and we made the finals, but we got pumped. I think if we didn't get pumped that game, there'd probably be less pressure on the club and myself. Yep. Had a good preseason, as I said, and the next year we just didn't get it right for whatever reason after COVID. And probably, I probably challenged some of the senior players, and they challenged me, and we just couldn't quite, get that right. And so, when we started losing games, it was hard work. So, the point around that was, I probably would have made decisions in the short term if I knew it was going to turn so sour. So, you keep Josh Maguire had been let go before I got there, but I let guys like Jaden Sewer go, Cody Nicarima go, James Roberts go. We let a lot of experience go. And even before I got there, the club had let a lot of experience go, like losing Sammy Thaiday, Corbin Sims, and then, moving on Josh to the Cowboys. We probably went too young, too quick.
Yep.
And so that's probably one thing. Maybe, I might have changed, some of the decisions in and around, those older guys. Even like we let Andrew McCulloch go on my second year there just before the resumption after COVID. And we were really lacking someone like, like a
Just a
Macca,
senior
he's a
leader,
senior
yeah.
guy, So yeah, probably that. We made a lot of decisions for 4 years' time rather than go, hey, we need to
Yeah,
be,
you're building towards
we
it.
need to get this right now, and
Yep.
probably that's the one thing I'd change, mate. Yeah.
And then how did you find out that it was going to end at the Bronx?
Well, look, mate. One thing I did do is have a good relationship with the chairman,
Yep.
Carl Morris. I've got a lot of respect for him as a person, and so Carl and myself, look, mate, I'm a man, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So Carl and
100%.
myself had, conversation going like, how are we gonna improve this? How are we
Turn
gonna get
around,
out of this?
yeah.
And the final straw was my daughter. We didn't want to move her. She was doing year 12. So when the rest of my family moved up, we left her down with a family here in Sydney, and she loved
Oh,
it.
so she's still on the beaches.
She was still on the beaches,
Wow,
yeah, with a lovely family who were so good with her. But we got beaten by South Sydney, and I think my daughter started to see all this stuff on social media.
Yeah.
There was all this media around me losing my job and so on, and we played against South Sydney, got beaten again. So I think it was like 10 of the last 11 games we've been beaten, mate. And so I could just feel the walls crumbling. And I got a phone call from her, and I hadn't seen her, physically hadn't seen her or given her a hug since the February, right?
Yep.
Because, the borders are closed and we'd be chartering flights in and
because
out.
COVID, yes, sorry,
right.
yep.
And so she rang me, and she's quite upset one night. And so this was after South's game, and she said, Dad, I need you. And I just thought, I've got to get off this bus. I just couldn't live with myself if I didn't get off the bus. And people probably think it's a cop out, but anyone who's got children, when your daughter or your son's in trouble and they need their dad, I mean, footy's way down the pecking order for me. It's just my daughter's. She's the priority. So I jumped off the bus.
Because you broke, you got out of the bubble.
I had to jump off the bus, mate. I
Yep.
was walking. I was still in my Broncos gear. I'm walking through Surrey Hills trying to find a cab because the bus dropped me off there on the way back to the charter.
Oh, so you literally got off the team
I
bus?
literally got off the team bus.
Oh, wow.
And so that was hard. That was really hard. Anyway, I went and saw my daughter. Spent 2 days with her. She was obviously missing myself and her mum, my wife. Doing HSC, all that sort of stuff. So she had, a fair bit going on in her life, and she just needed a parent. And so when I flew back into Brisbane on the Sunday night, I had to get an exemption from the chief medical officer to go home. And then, mate, I just knew it was done then. I rung Carl maybe on the Monday or Tuesday. And he put cameras outside my house for a few days. And I just said, look, mate, this is done. And that was on the Monday, maybe. And then on the Tuesday, all this crazy stuff on social media started coming out, like craziness, like.
Just lies.
Just crazy stuff. And then that's when, this just, this is just out of control here now. And so, as I said, to Carl Morris's credit, we said, I can't put myself through this anymore. It was really impacting me, and it was impacting my family. And so I just said, mate, we can't do this. I can't do this, mate. I can't do this. But, I've made this decision to come up here for 6 years, and we made a lot of decisions around that. Anyway, long story short, we come to a compromise, and so, mate, it was time for me to finish up. I just didn't think that the players needed the circus around me anymore, and there was a circus around me, and I thought it was impacting the players. And and as a head coach, you've got to hold your hand up, and you're responsible for the program. Ultimately, you're accountable for that. And so, it was time for me to be finished, mate.
And you spoke about obviously the impact it had on your family. Like some of the stuff that was being written was quite poor. Like how did that affect them? Like because it's easy to just show up for the game for 80 minutes, and we're working hard, but it's when you go home. And you can see your loved ones that are really impacted.
No, mate, they're probably still suffering some PTSD. I don't say that lightly. I'm being genuinely serious,
no,
mate. Certainly, no, my wife doesn't like footy as much as what she used to. Still comes to the game, but it just it's impacted them. It impacts your mum and dad because they read all this stuff about you and so
100%.
on. And, I sort of, it was really crazy, mate, because I've gone from, everyone was saying I was the best young coach coming through in 2018. And then, within 12 months or 24 months, they're saying you're the worst coach and you're this sort of bloke and that sort of bloke. And so that was hard to navigate, I've got to say. And it took me a bit of time to get over that, I've got to say.
Yeah, it would be. So you obviously move on from, come to the agreement with the Broncos. How did you end up with Eddie Jones in England rugby?
Well, he was always someone. He was a mad South man, mate. So
really?
when we had that significant improvement in 2018,
Yep.
he was messaging me saying, "Mate, look, what are you doing there? Like, I can see, you're playing a different." Because we actually started to play some really expensive footy, and I think we scored the most points in the comp that year. And so he was up. Well, what have you changed? What have you done?
Yeah.
So when he came to Australia, he met up with me, and then we just kept in contact. And so when I finished, mate, like he was the first person to offer me a job. Like everyone,
Really?
I was like, as no one wanted, me to be anywhere near.
You think you were tarnished?
Well, mate, I know I was. So anyway, Eddie offered me a job, and it was a consultancy job to start with. He said, mate, he said, because of COVID, you can do it from home. Our footy analysts will send you the vision. Want you to watch the game, watch it with a critical eye. How can we get better? Give me some projects to do. Yep. And so that was really good. And then Adam O'Brien, who was somebody, he's a very good friend of mine, and we worked together in Melbourne. He said, after that, he said, mate, do you want to do some consulting with us? Just come up and help our assistant coaches, one day a week, and it was purely just with the coaches to start with. So those sort of two things whet my appetite. But then I was doing some media, mate. Like that's one of the things I feel like I've learned a lot, I was doing some stuff for Stan with rugby. I was doing some stuff with Nine, and Sports Sunday and a few things like that. I was doing some stuff with SEN.
I bumped into you a couple of times.
That's right. Yeah. So I sort of did some stuff there, which was really good. And I did some stuff with the corporates, so I was doing some leadership consultancy.
What was it like for you being on the other side when you're in the media now?
It was, it's given me a greater understanding.
Yep.
I don't take things as personal. I talk a lot of things personally in Brisbane. So I just know, don't take it personal. And look, mate, it's never nice, for people to criticise you or whatever, but that's the reality. You got a job to do, mate, and you got to make comment, and that's why you're on the air. So I get that so much better now than prior. So, but that's sort of how I met Eddie, and he sort of got me back on track in a lot of ways, mate. And then I went over there and ended up coaching 15 tests with him, and England are one of the best sides in the world, and mate, it was unreal, mate. Yeah, it was awesome.
How was the difference in transition from rugby league to rugby union? Have you got a rugby union background at all?
No.
Oh,
I haven't, no.
And what was your role with the rugby union?
So I was defence coach with England Rugby, and then for that was for my whole time there. But then there was a series there where I was coaching coordinator as well. So you're coordinating all the other coaches. So that was so good for my learning because you got 3 or 4 other assistants that you're coordinating to try and get the best training, session designed or the best outcomes from training. Coordinating, making sure they're ready to do their part for training and so on. So that was awesome. Was doing that. It was busy, I gotta say, but it was awesome. And the life work balance was great, mate. Because in camp, you wouldn't see me for 8 weeks, mate. Head down, bum up. Eddie drives a really tough environment there, and but a good environment in my experience with England Rugby. But then you'd be home for 8 weeks, mate. So I'd be on the Northern Beaches dropping the kids off to school, or
how good's that?
Just doing some of the media stuff. So I felt like it was excellent, mate, just to get that balance right.
Did they ever do a tour out here?
They did, mate. Yeah, we played the Wallabies in 3 tests.
What was that like?
We won. Yeah, it was it was great. It was really good actually because, growing up, the Wallabies, were a massive team. Even though I didn't, I was more of a league person, but I certainly, admired the Wallaby success and, in the late 80s all through the 90s. So it was great. And to come back home, I won't say I had a bit of a bee in my bonnet still, but it was great to come back with, as a coach, as a senior assistant there with Eddie. We won the series 2-1. It was a really well played series. Good, the rugby community got behind it, but it was just good for me to be back and have a bit of success back in Australia, mate. I think, that really sort of helped me along the way.
And what about for yourself? Obviously, you had a tough period at the Broncos. What would be the best learnings that Eddie gave you as a coach?
Yeah, well, to be curious. You spoke before about, fact-finding missions or PD, like just that continuous want to get better, mate, and that he's a very curious guy. What can we do better here? How do we get this to the next level? Who can I go and learn from that can help, take my coaching or our group to the next level? So I just had a real curious mindset. So that was a big thing I took from him. And I think, a lot of the way, lot of way that we sort of do our stuff at Manly, with regards to, like, Jimmy Dimmy, for instance, like he's our team defence coach.
Yep.
That's his primary role, but his secondary role is the middle forwards.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So being really deliberate around, no grey area with regards to...
Just knowing who's who.
Yeah, and so players know, if I'm going to get, you're a middle forward, for me to get better, I'm seeing, Jimmy's my man. You know, Jimmy's going to help me get better. He's who I get, my day-to-day feedback, and then I'll only see you, mate, if I've got to drop you that's
I'll give an inside shoulder.
So, then I'd speak to players, around the effort, and that's the sort of stuff that I want to push. But I felt that was really good, how Eddie did that. So how I sort of set up our staff there is probably influenced, from the rugby union experience, mate.
I remember it was cool. He come to training a couple of times.
He did, mate. Yeah,
he used to chew his head off, and he loved it.
Mate, he still keeps
loves his league.
Loves league, mate. Loves league. Again, like obviously we've had a fair bit of improvement at Manly this year, mate, and so he sort of, keeps in contact. Why have you improved there? What are you looking for here?
And he's coaching Japan.
He's coaching Japan. Yeah. So as I said, mate, like,
he's been through a tough period of time with the Wallabies.
No, he was. He was, and I know, again, look, I don't know. You don't know. One thing I do know is that you don't know.
You never know.
You never know.
Never know what's in the corner in this game.
Yeah, but also, people are appointed head coaches. They've got to have some ability, and sometimes it goes great, and sometimes it doesn't go well. But he's a good coach. He's like he's in Bellyache's territory, mate.
Yeah.
They're the best two coaches I've worked with for different reasons. So he's had a lot of success in rugby, mate. Like at England, the longest serving coach, but also the most, the best win rate of any coach in their history. And you consider rugby union started over in England, that's significant, mate. Over 70%. Like so. He didn't have success with Australia, but he's had success with South Africa.
I remember he knocked off. Wasn't he at Japan and knocked off South Africa?
Yeah.
In the World Cup.
Yeah, biggest ball over
in history.
In the history of rugby. So I think they made a movie about it. That's how
really?
big it was.
Wow.
Yeah. So no, he was great to me, and I learned a lot, mate.
So talk to us. You've gone from English rugby, and then how did you land at Manly? Because that was completely under the radar.
Yeah. Well, obviously I had lived.
Northern
Beaches,
living
in the Northern Beaches for since the end of 2015. So for my girls, like they're locals, mate. So long as they've ever lived anywhere, that's home. And so I had, I was going to go through and do the full World Cup cycle with England. I was enjoying it that much, and as I said, the balance, the work-life balance was great with international rugby. And then just towards the end of what would have been? I was about to go back. It would have been towards the end of 2022, maybe October 22 or something like that. The club had reached out and said, look, would you be interested in coming back as an assistant coach in, 2024?
Yep.
After my commitments with rugby started. And I said, yeah, definitely be interested. And anyway, that's sort of how all that started. And then obviously Des and Manly parted ways, and so all of a sudden the conversation, I was over in England at this time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The conversation started saying, look, would you be our, come up early and be our head coach? And so that was a big decision to make because, as I said, I was enjoying the England rugby experience so much, and they had a World Cup coming up the following year, which I sort of wanted to go to. But I just thought in the end, Woodsy, coming back home, back to Australia, feel like, I've been in the community for a long time, knew a few of the players because I coached them previously, knew that it would be, a good challenge, a good coaching challenge. But I just thought, what, if I say no to it, I might not get another opportunity to do it. And I just, I'm really glad I said yes, mate. And I've really enjoyed the last 2 years there. And, what sort of goes on behind the four walls, we're growing and, we're improving. And I think we had a good season. Ultimately, the Roosters were too good last weekend. But, we made some big strides forward, mate.
And then when you do come back to Manly, you employ, obviously, Jim Dimmick.
Yeah.
And then the big one is Shane Flanagan.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people were like, well, he wants to be a head coach again. Like, how was that, and how was he for you?
Flano was great for me. And like, a lot of people said, what, why would you get Flano? I was thinking, why wouldn't you get Flano? Like, he's a premiership winning coach. Like, he's a man's man.
Yep.
Calls a spade, as you know. like he's got really good links across the game, so he's very well connected. I just thought as soon as, it was said to me, would you be interested in getting Flano? I jumped at it, mate. I rung him and said, mate, I'd love to have you with me. I just thought.
How did he take that?
No, he was awesome. He said, mate, I just want to coach again, and so he was excellent, mate. Like, and a lot of the ground, like last year we weren't quite good enough to make the playoffs. Like, I think we missed out by a game and a half, but we made some big strides, and so I was really happy for him to get the opportunity with the Dragons. If he hadn't come across to us, maybe that
Probably
opportunity might not have occurred. I'm not sure. But
did you encourage him to get that one at Dragons? Or
well, he come and spoke to me, and I said, mate, I'd love to see you be a head coach again.
That's
what
awesome.
You want to do. But he probably had a decision to make because he was working on Fox, and then he was doing assistant with us, and they're both good gigs, right?
Loves his cash too. The big
yeah, probably. But it's probably a big decision for him. But I think, like me, mate, I think he had an appetite to go back in and give it another crack. And the Dragons, I certainly saw them improve this year, and so I was really pleased for him. I just thought, Jimmy's got different strengths to me, and some of our other coaches. I've got different strengths to him, but you're always trying to, when you appoint your assistant coaches or your staff, for me anyway, I'm trying to, how do I fill the missing bits that I don't have?
It's like a balance, isn't it?
It is, mate. Yeah, and
his strengths are probably, what some other guys' weaknesses are. And
exactly, mate. And that's how you sort of try and balance your because if they're all like me or they're all like,
some players, you're on the same players or the same.
Yeah, then I don't think you're given the best opportunity for the players to grow.
Yep. One thing I was going to say, I got to Manly when we were in Mudgee. Remember that?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And it was just after the Maccas.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
How was that? Like, how did that happen?
Well, mate,
what was the group like with you?
Well, I took the piss out of myself when I come in on the Monday, I think it was.
I think you were still in Sydney because I met you in Mudgee.
Yeah, we were going to Mudgee the next week. It was that.
Yeah.
And you met us a couple of days later. So what happened was we beat Parramatta on a Thursday night.
Yep.
It was a hell of a night. Like, we played so well. So I stayed up most of the night, did the reviews, because whenever we play Thursday or Friday night, we like to do the reviews the next day.
Yep.
So the players, the non-negotiable is I don't like bringing the players in on a Sunday. You know what I mean? So
Get the weekend off,
So we tried to do it on the Friday. I had 6 of my best mates down from boarding school who
the boys.
I organised them to go to Four Pines. They came to the game. I said, look, I can't catch
so they've been at the Four Pines.
Four Pines, the brewery there.
The brewery before the game.
Before and after the game. Anyway, I said, look, I can't catch up with you tonight, but I'll go for a beer with you on Friday afternoon.
Yep.
I said, I've got reviews until about 1 o'clock. So, as you do, mate, you stab, get all your work done, in early, get everything done.
Well, as a player, I don't go to bed till 3 or 4 after a game.
That's right, yeah.
You're still up, especially a later game.
Yeah, and then as a coach, particularly if you've got review the next day, you're probably not getting a whole heap of sleep. But anyway, went and had a fantastic afternoon with my 6 mates. And I actually thought, wake up on the Saturday and I thought, how good of a day was that? It was awesome. got home about 10:30, 11 o'clock. We'd come in for a few beers for St. Paddy's Day. And we'd won that weekend, and it might have been 2 from 2 to start the season or something. I was just going, how good is this? Anyway, on the way home, me, one of my schoolmates, and another mate of through the kids' school, good friend of mine, we stopped off to get some Maccas. One's gone to water, one's gone to the toilet, and I'm sort of sitting there, and I must have dozed off. I didn't even, remember dozing off, but I must have dozed off for, 30 seconds. Anyway, someone's got a photo of me. And so the Monday or Tuesday, he come out, and so, I wasn't, look, I wish it didn't happen, but I wasn't embarrassed by it. I was home by 11 o'clock. We'd gone to Macca's like everyone probably does at different times, and they've had a few beers. I'd had a great afternoon with my mates. Look, I wish I hadn't have brought the scrutiny on myself, particularly because it was right, I'd been through all the stuff at Broncos. It was right at the very beginning.
For you.
But it was fine, man. I laughed it off with the media. I think most people in the media said, look, he's had a good afternoon and he's with his mates or whatever.
Wrong.
Yeah, that's right. But how did I hand up with the players? The following Sunday, I think it was in the paper. And so that photo in the paper, remember we used to, as you come in, we get the footy analyst to play music. And,
Yeah, yep.
And at the time,
on our big projector.
on the big projector, and
Yep.
at the time we'd have like who's requested the song or whose
A lot of
turn
times
was
it was Flano.
Yeah, a lot of times it was
Yeah.
Flano, right?
Yes.
But they used to put a little photo up of whoever
Put it there, yeah.
like whoever
And it was
in
a
charge of
piss take photo.
It was a
Yes.
piss take photo, right? So anyway, I said to Mick Cool, now footy analyst, who does a great job for us, I said, look, mate, I need to own this. Put up the photo of me asleep, with the music when the boys come in.
Yeah.
And, just to, have a laugh about it. And yeah, so anyway, there was nothing serious to it, but it was a good afternoon.
Yeah.
I just, unfortunately, for whatever reason, I must have just had a quick nap at Macca's there on the way home.
One of the funniest things I did see was like, those memes sort of come out. And I think you were doing a team talk, but then they had you just like that sleeping.
Don't worry, mate. My daughter, she sees all that stuff. And so she always shows me the piss takes on me. So, no, I had look, I wish I hadn't brought that scrutiny on myself for the club. But look, I'm human, mate, and I try, I do try and be the best coach I can be. But, just unfortunately, I sort of put myself in a situation which I wish I hadn't, but life moves on.
Oh, mate, it happens, and we learn from our mistakes, mate.
Exactly, mate.
Talk to us about Tommy Turbo. Like, there's so much intrigue about him. Are you going to play him at the centres? Are you going to play him at fullback? His hamstring injuries. How hard is it to deal with when you know what he's like? In the four wars at Manly, you see the GPS data.
Yeah.
A lot of people say he's not running fast. Yeah. How hard is that to deal with as a coach?
Well, I'd say it'd be particularly hard for Turbo, mate. Like
he's one of the best rehabs I've ever seen.
This is the thing, right? Like, he is a genuinely good person off the field, and he prepares elite.
It's phenomenal, isn't it?
He prepares elite. Like, he's an elite athlete, right? And he's very diligent with that. To the point, like, he's got his own sauna and ice bath, and he is just like literally preparing to be at his best. And unfortunately, in our sport, injuries occur, mate. It's a collision sport, and it's a robust game, and so Turbo obviously, be challenging for him mentally, mate, probably more so than physically. How do I deal with it, mate? Like, I just try and support Turbo as much as I can, and sometimes that's not asking him how he is.
Yep.
Because everywhere he goes,
does his head in.
Probably does his head in. If everyone's going, how's the shoulder or how's the hammy or whatever. So I try and deliberately not say that unless I need to, or ask him that unless I need to. But I just, we saw when he came back after the hamstring this year, he put 5 games together which were outstanding, mate. He ended up winning our Player of the Year. Because when he played, mate, I thought he was outstanding. So, look, I really love to see him pick for Australia. I'm not sure whether he's in contention. I'd love to see it. There's a little personal reward for him because he hasn't played for them since 2018. And
I played with him in that game.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's in the top couple of players in the game, mate.
Yeah.
He's in the top 3 players, in my opinion, in the game. And so I'd love to see him play for Australia. It's a bit of a reward for the ups and downs.
The poor bloke in that against, what was it, that last game, does his shoulder, the second last game, sorry, and then just like, far out.
Yeah, no. But as I said, he's super professional.
Yep.
And he's obviously very resilient, mate. Like, for him to keep getting up off the canvas and going again. But it doesn't surprise me with their family. Their family are
champions.
Lovely people, and they've been brought up exceptionally well. And we're really lucky to have him at our club, mate.
Yep.
And he is one of our super, super influential players.
One thing I'd love to know from a coach's perspective, and for people at home, how do you guys go about signing players? Like, what's the sort of, I don't know, how do you say it? Like, what do you look at? What are the the signs? What makes you go after certain players?
Yeah. Well, I put a lot of trust in Peter Jannell. He's our senior recruitment manager, because if you put someone in a position, you need to trust them and delegate to them. So I put a lot of trust in him. If there's someone I'm keen on, I think, he can add to our squad, like a Brooksy as an example. You know what I mean? You sort of know what gap you need to fill.
Yep.
And so, as an example with Brooksy, I met him twice, face to face. First time was just a general chat. Second time was, specifically how potentially.
Did you get much out of him? He doesn't really.
Yeah, no, he's a bit introverted, Brooksy. until he has a couple of beers, and then it's a
the
different
dentist
story.
comes out.
But
Yeah, different bloke comes
but
out.
yeah, the second time we talked footy,
Yep.
and how we could help him, or how I felt we could help his game, and how he could help us. So there's someone you go and hand pick,
Yep.
and so Brooksy was off contract and on the market, and we're going, right, he can add to our program. And then there's some guys like Tommy Talau who we sort of identify, like, he's tough, and I saw a glimpse of it, and I'm thinking, why is he back and forth from first grade to reserve grade, and he'd play a couple of good games for a week, but then he'd sort of maybe drop off a little bit over the next few weeks. So there's someone you think, what, if we can build consistency around his preparation, and give him some I suppose trademarks to really go after in the off season or the pre-season, and really invest some time in. You might see something like that kick. So
how good was he?
He was great. So he was more of a feel. I heard he had good character, because you always got to check that. With the school kids, mate, I don't get involved unless they're really elite kids. And then meeting their families is really important. Giving them a pathway. Like, this is where we expect you to be, or the avenue that we've predicted where you'll get to over the next couple of years, and this is why we've got you. And you meet your parents, and you speak to the school teachers, and you do your homework like that. But I put a lot of trust in Pete. And the other thing we look at is cohesion. So there's certain research in and around the more you play together. Let's just talk about like a halfback and an edge back rower. The more shared reps you do, the more shared experiences you have.
The combos,
the combos are going to improve, and the cohesion is going to improve. So there's a little bit in that as well. What do we need? We don't want to go and rip up the squad after every season and start again, because you'll be starting again. It's about, like, who can we add? Then looking for 3 or 4 years down the track with the kids. So it's a bit of a balance, and I sort of probably, constantly communicating with Peter Jannell. It's one of the things that does take up a bit.
Do you go to the spine members at all and see what they want, or the leaders
with regards to
like certain players? Like,
look, one of the things with Brooksy, like, we didn't want that out there in the media. So, and I wasn't sure if it was going to come either. So I didn't want to go and tell people that we were talking to Brooksy. I just had a gut feel that he would add to our squad, and I think he had a great year, didn't he? Probably one of his better years.
He's got to play semi-finals.
Yeah, played 2 semi-finals, which is awesome, right? Yeah. So in any case, sometimes we will go to the senior players and go, hey, look, there's this player up for grabs. What's your thoughts on him? But Pete Jannell does a lot of the work in and around that at our club.
And then, so obviously, like, that Brooksy one was under the radar. Any interesting meeting places or where you've been to meet players?
Well, I got caught out a few years ago.
Oh, did you?
I was at Broncos. I was signing. Well, I wanted to meet Brady Croft. I think the Melbourne were looking to move him on, and anyway, we didn't have a lot of money, but he was keen to come back to Queensland, and so we met. I was down here at the time. Caught a ferry across, caught a cab to Surrey Hills, met Crofty there. By the time I was back on the ferry that afternoon, on one of the websites, there was a photo, like the CCTV footage of me and Crofty having a coffee together there, So then I learned my lesson. I thought, because I just didn't think people would recognise us all, But so just, mate, either at my house or or at the club on a player's day off. But Brooksy was at my house a couple of times. Yeah, I got him over and got all the family out, because I did not want anyone knowing.
Oh, beautiful.
That's right.
So it was just you and Brooksy?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Geez, that was be interesting to chat to see what he was like. He'd love to be a fly on the wall. For that
he was good, mate. I'd met Brooksy previously, so only once, but I spoke about Shane Millard there earlier.
Yeah, and he loved him at Tigers.
Yeah, and so Billy Millard's a great friend of mine, and so just before I was going to England, rugby, I was up in Queensland during that bubble when I was doing a bit of consulting with Newcastle, and we went to Noosa, and me and Holly went out for dinner with Shane Millard, his wife Robin, Brooksy and Talia.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Brooksy's wife.
So it wasn't such a hard
so I'd met him there, socially, like just one night, but I knew we'd had a mutual friend in,
break the ice,
or someone that he, really respected, in Billy Millard. So yeah, it wasn't like an awkward conversation
Yep.
where I'm meeting Brooksy for the first time. I had met him.
He
Yeah,
can be a bit of a weirdo first
yeah,
time you
is
meet
that
him,
right? There you
especially without
go.
a beer.
Yeah, that's right.
And lastly, Seibs, go back to the final the other night.
Yeah.
What are you thinking after the first 2 tackles, mate? Honestly.
Mate, honestly, I couldn't believe it. I just could not believe it. I just, yeah, you know, we prepare well, and
mate, you don't prepare for that.
and we have contingencies in place, you know, for all sorts of scenarios in a game. You know, and we do that in advance. I've got to tell you, mate, it's not one. We did not have one contingency for that, other than like Benny coming on for Tolu. But then, you know, Brownie's made such an impact off the bench. We had Brownie out there after 30 seconds or whatever, and it sort of messes up the rotation. But look, mate, I've got to give Roosters credit. I thought they played exceptionally well, and they really they suffocated us, mate. And I was proud of the guys because I thought we were very spirited. But ultimately, mate, it wasn't the way we wanted to go out. You know, we conceded 40 points. We weren't the best version of ourselves, even though we tried super hard. So I was disappointed, mate, because I thought the guys deserved better. Because I felt as though the season had been, you know, a really positive one, mate. You know, we made some really good strides, and you know, we played some really good footy at times, and we won some really tough games against, you know, the Penriths and the Storms and the Roosters and so on. So, but unfortunately, mate, we weren't quite good enough for them.
And one more actually, can anyone beat Penrith to stop them from a 4-peat?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, eh? But, you know, I mean, Melbourne have beat them twice this year, which is quite unusual, isn't it, for Penrith? Because normally if you beat them once, they come looking for you, you know. So, look, I think Melbourne can. No, I do. I think Melbourne can. But they've got to get through Roosters first. And I've got to, you know, if Roosters play anywhere near how they played last week, they're a chance, mate. You know, I know all the stats. They've only won 1 from 10 games against the Storm and 0 from 20 games. Oh, sorry, 0 from 10 games or 11 games against the Panthers. But they've got a quality roster, mate. Like that team they got.
They're scary.
It's a very, very good team. Super talented. So, look, there'll be some chance against Melbourne. But if Melbourne get through that game, then I think Melbourne can beat the Panthers, you know.
Oh, yeah. I think it's going to be a cracking grand final.
Will be, mate. Yeah.
Well, mate, Seibs, thanks so much for coming on the Woodsy Club Tour, mate. Appreciate it. And all the best. Hopefully Manly in the grand final next year, brother.
That's the plan, mate.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Thank you, mate. Good man, mate.